Egoli Youth Empowerment is a Soweto-based non-profit. Today I'm joined by Director Glenn Lazarus and Program Director Sharon Sibanda. My first question for you guys. So EYE or I'm not sure which it goes by, started off as Egoli Squash. How did that evolve into Egoli Youth Empowerment? And what does that timeline look like?
Thanks. So, Patrick, I think the original plan was I got a lot of enjoyment out of playing squash and have been a bit of a serial entrepreneur and felt that it was time to explore opportunities to give back to the youth of our country. And we decided to start off by having a couple of squash days in Soweto and thought that based on that, we would see what would happen. Originally, we held a weekend session and we put up some signs at some schools. In Soweto, we had one squash court that had lights and one squash court that didn't have a floor, but other than that, all was good. We ran a session over a weekend and we had about 300 young kids in Soweto show up. We were expecting about 20 or 30, and we weren't sure if they showed up because they saw squash thinking that it was orange squash to drink, or that they came for a bit of finding out what's new. And we started off and held the first sessions. It was an amazing experience because we had so many people and so few resources, but we got the community involved. We ran outdoor sessions, we played a little bit of squash, and we ran that for a couple of weeks, and we planned to run for 3 weeks. At the end of the 3 weekends, we went back home and we were doing our regular thing. And a friend of mine who was a co-founder of the organization was Dikana Ntombeni, who lived in Soweto. And on the 4th week, the kids came knocking at his door. "Hey, coach, where are you? What's going on? Why aren't we at the courts today?" And this was the beginning some 12, 13 years ago, where we started introducing squash. And as we ran more programs, we expanded it into the inner city and realized that we were only touching the tip of the iceberg because the youth needed the outcomes in terms of sport, but all the other issues that we're facing on a day-to-day basis weren't being addressed. And that's when we got Sharon involved. Sharon is a psychologist by trade and been involved in the program since the early days. And she identified some of the key issues that are faced in the inner city and Soweto, whether it be social issues, all the different things that kids face on a day-to-day basis. And as we progressed, we started introducing more and more additional programs. So from life skills to academic support, healthy lifestyle, nutrition, and so on. And this evolved over a period of 3 or 4 years. We're now at a stage where after quite a time period, we decided to change the look and feel of our image because it was no longer just about squash. It became about producing opportunities for at-risk youth to gain leadership, become great citizens of our country, and have outcomes that give them opportunity to be employed and to become leaders.
Yes. So with squash, we realized that, yes, we're using squash as an entry point, but then the challenges that the inner city and Soweto kids are facing in their day-to-day lives, we had to address them if we're to successfully run as a program. We're talking about kids whose realities are waking up to communities that are ridden with poverty, crime, violence, and environments that could easily sway them in the wrong direction. We felt that we must provide them with this safe space, a safe space where they have caring adults who are nurturing and who could listen to them to say, we know the realities that you're going through. We're not going to say, perform a miracle and say we're going to change your realities, but we're going to walk this journey with you. We're going to provide you with life skills. We're going to provide you with leadership skills and empower you to be resilient young South African citizens.
And how did these kids get involved?
Yes, so we approach schools. We approach schools in the inner city and Soweto. We approached principals, school sports coordinators, and school governing boards to say, here is this sport that would like to introduce through to your schools. During the first days, it was really tough when we went out to the schools to try and introduce the sport, because here we're bringing a new sport that the schools themselves have never heard of. They're thinking, what is squash? They're thinking is tennis. They're thinking is squash, is some form of juice. They're thinking all sorts. So to really take up to that sport, we had to do fun and exciting road shows. And then that's when they got to see and experience to say, oh, would like to try this sport, would like our learners to participate. But then it wasn't an easy journey, because we had to come up with a strategy as an organization to say, yes, we're presenting this sport, but how are we going to go about it? So we had to set up a structure where we involve the different stakeholders, the sports coordinators, the principals, the parents, and the youth themselves to say, this is for you. We cannot design anything without you in it. So you must be involved in the planning, the designing, and the structure.
And then why squash? What are some of the benefits that you've seen from squash being the sports medium?
I think that squash has become a secondary product in the life cycle of what we do today. It was initially that glue that, and still is, that entry point where we encourage kids and of all ages, from 8 right through to we have our graduates are in their 20s, and we encourage them to come and experience something new. But we've evolved from just being squash to providing, we have netball, we have street racket, we have chess. It's all about making sure that there's a disciplined approach to a healthy lifestyle, encouraging athlete development, encouraging academic support, building future leadership. And for our participants to influence others, because that's a very big factor in the work that we do. If we can influence one single child, that child can influence the family, and that can have an enormous outcome, especially if we look at the areas where we're involved in entrepreneurial skills and things like urban farming, where instead of just being, here's a come have a drink, play some sport and go home, when you go home, we've given you some entrepreneurial skills. You can build your own home garden, an urban farm. At our schools in Soweto, we have urban farming that takes place on a regular basis. They're producing produce that can be sold, excess is taken home, and it's also utilized in the schools. So this is a big factor in driving the leadership and the entrepreneurial skills, so that young people can take this to their families and influence their communities.
The youth get to train, they get to compete, they get to play, they get to win and lose. Those are tangible life skills that the youth need to navigate life. Those are life skills that are not taught even within schools. With sports, that is possible, where these soft life skills are taught to the youth. How to manage losses, how to manage wins, how to be disciplined, and how to follow a structured program. So with sport, that is what we've managed to achieve.
And on the topic of sports, you've got a big team of coaches. What is the role that these coaches play?
I think these coaches are not just coaches. These coaches become life influencers and mentors in the children's lives and in the families as well. Sharon can tell you some stories of how we're part of a family. It's not about a coach is outside of the environment. That coach becomes an intrinsic go-to person to deal with any issues that they're facing. And these some of them are very, very complicated issues. We've had cases where, unfortunately, parents pass away, or some early childhood pregnancies and children being lost, and all sorts of really difficult situations to handle. And that's why Sharon is the pivotal. We call her my Egoli, the mother of Egoli, because she looks after so many issues and assists the families with their day-to-day lives.
And the coaches, these are coaches who live within the communities where the players come from. So they are not new to these realities that the players are going through. They are able to identify the socioeconomic challenges that the players are going through, and they are able to assist the players to quickly identify when the players are going through difficult challenges in their lives, and they're able to assist them to navigate through the challenges that they face.
And in your 2025 reports, you mentioned that 15 players from the Egoli Youth Empowerment qualified for interprovincials. What are some of the big success stories that you guys have found through the years?
So we have some great, unbelievable super experiences. We've had players that have participated in the World Championships, traveling to Poland, Australia, Botswana. Some of our graduates are coaching all over the world as a result of the experience they gain through the program. But I also think that we have some local superheroes. We have a young player right now by the name of Soweto who comes out of Soweto. He's ranked number 1 or 2 in his age group in the country. And the reality is the family has practically nothing. We support, we assist the family as much as we can. But most of his competition that he plays against are elite players who have private coaches with unlimited budgets. Because as you know, if we talk about squash, squash is an elitist sport. It's through the work that we do that we've changed it and made it much more available and accessible to players, especially in the inner city in Soweto. And then we have some of our graduates like, we have coach graduates, and then we have graduates that have gone on to become leaders in their own right. We have a guy like Clinton, who he started in our Alex program. He got thrown out of school because they couldn't afford to pay the fees. We brought him back and got him a bursary to go to a good school. He graduated and during school, he was selected by the St. John's Academy to participate in the St. John's Academy, which was a huge success. And he got involved there. When he matriculated, the St. John's Academy invited him to give him a bursary to study at the University of South Africa and to become an intern teacher at the school. He became a housemaster, and subsequent to that, he has been teaching and is a highly regarded teacher at some really upmarket schools in the Kailami area. So these are some of the graduates that have done some phenomenal things, and we have quite a number of them who've graduated through the system over the year. And these players always come back because they're part of the family. They become influencers right throughout the Egoli family.
Yes, so and the smiles that we see on our children's faces, I'd say that's the most achievement that we've made, that we're continuously making as an organization. We have children who came through to the program who were shy, withdrawn, and lacked confidence. But after 2 or 3 months within the program, they stand tall, they're able to smile, they're bubbly. And that's the joy that we want to see as an organization. And that our work has also been recognized by organizations such as L'Oreal Sport for Good Foundation and Sport for Social Change Network, Squash South Africa, just to name a few. It just goes to show the impact that the positive impact that we're trying to achieve each and every day.
And then how can the members of the BizNews tribe help?
I think we, as South Africa, faces one or two fundamental issues. We have a lot of youth unemployment. It's not for lack of talent. There is so much talent There really is. And we find talent every day, whether it be sporting talent, whether it be future leaders. We identify talents across our youth. Our program requires for those participants that become part of our high performance program, they have to complete their academic records, and we track them and follow their progress and make sure that we get the report cards, and we ensure we have academic support programs in the afternoons. They have to attend it. They have to achieve minimum standards in order to continue in the program, so that we give them that guidance, and then they participate in the entrepreneurial skills. So that creates a more holistic approach. And what we see is that, we want to build a stable economy, but we need to empower our youth to participate in that economy. So what we need from the BizNews tribe is the opportunity for sustainability and food security, but through initiatives where the Biz tribe can influence and assist and mentor, and where that means coming down and participating, or sharing and coming do a talk on success and giving the kids and the participants goals to achieve. We're all about empowerment, and we need the Biz tribe to assist us in that empowerment, building resilience and sustainability. It's not all about money. It's about influencing society. So we would love the Biz tribe to come down, either get involved and participate by mentoring, sharing ideas. Financial contributions also would be amazing. But at the end of the day, we have a board of influencing people. We have a board of trustees, some of them from big economic organizations, and some of them are just passionate about youth empowerment. And the key is, how can we involve the Biz tribe in assisting our youth to grow and become future entrepreneurs?
And then, just to close off, what does success look like for the Egoli Youth Empowerment in 2026 and beyond?
Well, we have a dream. Our head office is based in the Ellis Park Athletic Stadium. And in the Ellis Park Stadium and in the sports precinct, we have, on a Wednesday and a Thursday, we have quite in the hundreds of kids that come down to our facilities at UJ, which is one of our main centers, and in Gazankulu Squash Center at the school, at Gazankulu School in Soweto. But success is about utilizing the sports precinct and bringing hundreds of kids into the sports precinct, giving them opportunity to participate in a healthy lifestyle, and the academic involvement and nurturing, and giving them the opportunity to grow through entrepreneurial skills, both in the inner city and in Soweto. We want to build more infrastructure capable of not only playing sport, but also the academic support in the inner city and in Soweto. About 5 or 6 years ago, we built one additional squash court at the Gazankulu school, and we also built a resource center at the back. And we'd love to do the same in the sports precinct in Johannesburg.
Glenn Lazarus is director, Sharon Sibanda is program director at Egoli Youth Empowerment. I'm Patrick Kidd for BizNews.com.